I wanted to share how I store moisture-sensitive electronic components with a simple build using inexpensive materials. Note that everything for this build will be listed in the description below. Here I have some plastic film capacitors that I recently ordered. They arrived in a sealed anti-static bag with silica gel packets inside. You can see the bag's seal date, and it recommends soldering them within 72 hours of opening the package. For hobby electronics, it's not really realistic to buy a quantity of components and use them all up within a short time frame. To store components after opening the package, I like to put them in a sealed jar with a healthy amount of silica gel inside. This is a 32-ounce wide-mouth canning jar. It has a 2-piece lid that makes a very effective seal when screwed down. I'm going to use this round aluminum tin to hold the silica gel beads. I'll poke holes in the top of the tin to allow for airflow that will enable the silica gel beads to absorb the moisture from the air inside the jar. This tin fits really nicely inside the jar. The reason that I use a metal tin is so that I can easily pull it out and bake it in an oven to recharge the silica gel beads once they've become saturated with moisture. You can see that for this particular silica gel, the beads can be baked between 200 and 250 degrees Fahrenheit for about a half hour to 2 hours to fully recharge. Another thing I'm going to do is put a cheap hygrometer in the jar to help monitor the humidity. I'm also going to throw in a small packet of silica gel beads that change color when they're saturated with water. Blue silica gel beads contain a cobalt compound in them, which is not great for you if you manage to ingest them. Because of this, I prefer to use the colorless beads for anything that I'll be pouring or handling. Even these have some health risks if you misuse them, so check out the safety data sheets if you have concerns. Okay, let's start off with the tin. This one has a thin foam insert in the lid that I'm going to remove because I don't want it to melt whenever I bake the container in an oven. Initially, I tried using a nail and a hammer to make the holes, but this was pretty slow. Since the aluminum is pretty soft and thin, I switched to using an awl to poke the holes just using hand pressure. I put a piece of wood underneath to help support the metal so I wouldn't end up denting the lid in. I didn't really follow a set pattern for the holes other than trying to keep them about the same distance away from each other. Now that the lid is good to go, I'll pour the silica gel beads into the bottom of the tin and screw the cap on. Ideally, your holes would be smaller than the silica gel beads so they don't fall out if you tip the tin over. Now we can toss the tin inside the jar. I'll take my blue silica gel packet and wedge it at the bottom and press it up against the glass so that it's easily visible. Then I can put in the hygrometer and set it on top of the tin and position it such that the numbers can be read through the glass. So far everything kind of floats around inside the jar, but things will be held in place better once we start loading the jar up with components. Let's open up this bag of moisture-sensitive capacitors. You can see how they package it with some silica gel packets inside. It also includes this card that indicates if the humidity inside the package has exceeded the specified limits. Finally, here are my film capacitors. To keep things organized in the jar, I like to put things in individual anti-static bags. I'm also going to throw in the silica gel that came with the components as well as the humidity card. I'm cutting my strip of capacitors in half so they fit more easily in the bag. Sometimes I'll write the component information on the bag, or I might stick a label from the original packaging in there so it's visible through the bag. You can see right now that we're at about 44% humidity. I let the closed container sit for a little bit, and now you can see that it's at 10% humidity. The actual value is probably lower. The lowest value that these cheap hygrometers will display is 10%. Well, that's it for this build. If you have a different or better solution for dry component storage, please share in the comments. Hope you enjoyed this video. Catch you next time.